Looking to take your financial knowledge to the next level? You're in the right place. Welcome to Ask Ralph, offering accounting, technical, and financial advice. Whether you're looking to save taxes or improve your business, he's got you covered. Here's your host of Ask Ralph, Ralph Eastup Jr.
Hello and welcome back to the Ask Ralph Show. We're going to wrap up our franchising success series today. If you've missed any of this in the series, I encourage you to go to our podcast site, or you can go to our Ask Ralph website and you can download all of the pieces that you missed. If you're thinking about getting involved in a franchise, I definitely recommend you take the time to listen to my sessions. We have spent a great deal of time going through the different nuances to a franchise. Now, today we're going to wrap this up with a few comments about before you sign the franchise agreement. Now, the franchisor disclosures may change between the time you receive the FDD, which we talked about in the past two sessions, and the time you sign the franchise agreement. For example, the franchisor may have updated its FDD each calendar quarter and must update the FDD after its fiscal year ends. You have the right to ask for a copy of any updated information before you sign the franchise agreement. An updated FDD may reveal new lawsuits were filed or against the franchisor, changes in management or training teams, and more current financial performance. So, before you sign the franchise agreement, make sure you ask for an updated FDD. Now, what are some additional sources of information? If you've heard anything I've said, there's two people I think you need to get involved in this decision: an accountant and a lawyer. In addition to reading the franchisor's FDD, including any updates and speaking with current and former franchisees, consider talking to an accountant and a lawyer. I was very clear about this. I am not an attorney. I am not going to give you legal advice. Don't let your accountant give you legal advice. If you're going to sign an agreement, make sure you have it reviewed by an attorney. Now, an accountant can help you understand a franchisor's financial statements, develop a business plan, assess any earnings projections and the assumptions they're based on, and help you pick a franchise system that is best suited for your investment resources and your goals. That's fine. That's my job. That's your accountant's job. A lawyer can help you understand your obligations under the franchise contract. This is a contract, folks. This is not something that's scratched on the back of a bar napkin. These contracts usually are very long and complex. A problem that comes up after you've signed the contract may be very expensive to fix, if it can be fixed at all. Choose a lawyer who's experienced in franchise matters and rely on your lawyer or accountant for a recommendation about whether to buy a particular franchise. Now, this is not the area for your general practice attorney. You want to find somebody that specializes in business contracts. Even better if you find somebody that specializes in franchise contracts. Now, as you can assume, with the specialty lawyer comes a specialty fee. But this is a big deal, folks. Plan on spending several $1,000s with an attorney to make sure that you're going to be protected in this franchise. You also want to do some due diligence in the area of banks and other financial institutions. If you need financing to buy a franchise, a bank lender may be able to provide you with a Dun & Bradstreet report or similar financial profile of the franchisor. Ask these questions as you're going through it. These bankers, if you're going to be borrowing money, are going to have to make a decision. Well, guess what, folks? They're going to be aware of what's going on with this franchise. Ask them to help you. The bank may also obtain sales and profit information from the franchisor, even if the franchisor won't give you that information. Remember that the bank approval of a franchise loan doesn't necessarily mean the franchise is a safe or good investment. So don't just assume that, the bank approved it, it must be good. Not necessarily true. The bank is going to look at your character, your collateral, and your capacity to pay it. You also want to enlist the Better Business Bureau. Check with the local Better Business Bureaus in the cities where the franchisor has its headquarters and the city where you're thinking of buying a franchise. Ask whether there are complaints on file about the franchisor's product, services, or personnel. Now, just because someone has a complaint doesn't mean that they're terrible. Read up and find out how the complaint was resolved or if it was resolved. There are certain people that will go out and make complaints about everyone. That doesn't mean that they're valid complaints. Look at how those things were resolved. If a person is a member of the Better Business Bureau and someone lodges a complaint against them, they are going to address that issue. If they simply ignore it, you've got to ask a question. Why are they ignoring it? You also want to look at the government. Several states have registration or disclosure laws that regulate the sale of franchises. Some states have laws meant to protect franchisees after the buy. The FDD, that financial disclosure document, that franchise disclosure document, should also include information about any such laws in your state. If the information isn't in the FDD, check with your state attorney general's office or Office of Consumer Affairs or state securities divisions. Do this anyway. Call and pester them about, hey, do you have complaints about this franchise? If they don't know too much about it, that may be okay, because that means that there haven't been a lot of complaints. Or if they're brand new, you're not going to get much information anyway. You also want to invest some time with the Federal Trade Commission. The Federal Trade Commission works for the consumer to prevent fraudulent, deceptive, and unfair practices in the marketplace and to provide information to businesses to help them comply with the law. Ask the questions. Look at opportunities to comment. The National Small Business Ombudsman and 10 regional fairness boards collect comments from small business about federal compliance and enforcement activities. Do your diligence. Do your due diligence. We've talked a lot in this franchise series, and it may be that franchising is perfect for you, but you've got to get from step A to step Z. And it's not going to be an overnight process. And if it is an overnight process, I'm worried that you're making the wrong decision. You've got to really pay attention to this. Do you have the adequate capital? Is this a market that is going to continue to grow? Does it have a strong brand? Do they have good training programs? Do they have good operational support? Do they provide marketing assistance? Do they give you real estate assistance? How about construction assistance if you have to build a place? What is the purchasing power? And how much risk are you willing to take? Because the thing is, you could be unsuccessful at this, if you start off undercapitalized and underinformed. If you fixate on a trendy business when starting a franchise and don't realize that it's going away. You need to understand the cost, and you can underestimate those franchise startup costs in the business plan. And one of the big ones that people fail in is not following the franchisor system. They've developed a system for a purpose. We would hope that this is a purpose that would lead to success. You also have to understand, your own personal limitations. You have to remember that this is going to be an ongoing marketing plan for you. You can't be complacent and say, I'm just going to buy this franchise, I'm going to open up the doors, and I'm just going to collect the money. You need to pay attention to your business plan. These are all parts of the things that go in, and thinking you know everything when starting a franchise is a really bad deal. And that's why I've said time and time again during the series, ask questions, ask other people, ask experienced franchisees. What I have found in business is if someone is successful, they're not unwilling to share that information with somebody else. If you approach somebody and say, hey, I'm just wondering, how has this franchise really been for you? You got to take some time and spend some time understanding it. Don't expect for it to be a complete, turnkey, and just forget, that you have to manage this and work this. So I hope this has been a successful series for you. I hope you go back and listen to these things again. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me at askralph.com.
You've been listening to Ask Ralph, brought to you by Saggio Accounting Plus. Please subscribe to and rate our podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, and leave us a rating and review. Our podcast is produced by Carolyn Peters. Thank you for listening, and be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at Ask Ralph Media. You can also hear me each week on 1450 WILM and on 1410 WDOV in Delaware, and on the iHeartRadio app. Submit your questions or ideas for future shows by sending an email to AskRalph@AskRalph.com.
The information contained in this episode of Ask Ralph is based on data available as of the date of its release. Saggio Accounting Plus and Ask Ralph Media Inc. is under no obligation to update this content if changes occur. Applying this information to your specific situation requires careful consideration of all facts and circumstances, and any information provided is not to be considered as financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult your tax advisor or attorney before acting on any material covered.